Sekeres Price for Monday, April 22nd, 2024, coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the iconic Wall Center. If you're heading to a game or an event in downtown Vancouver, call the Wall, 604-331-1000. Ask for the Sekeres Price rate. Some blackout dates apply. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price. Grady Sass hitting switches, conducting things alongside Sean Chessman. We got a big show coming up for you, and it's all a presentation of Applewood Auto Group.
Applewood Nissan in Richmond has the 2024 Rogue, which will fit your lifestyle. It fits pretty much every lifestyle in BC. It's the perfect vehicle. Take one for a test drive. You'll see what I'm talking about. Lease at 2.99% for 24 months. Go to the Richmond Auto Mall. It's Applewood Nissan of Richmond. It's all good at Applewood.
Full question. Dakota Joshua, ... Pay the man? Question mark. Yes or no? You can vote at Sekeres Price on Twitter and YouTube. First of all, what is the mini Stanley Cup you have by your microphone?
It's starting to pop up. It's like the tulips in springtime with the Canucks.
That wasn't there a few minutes ago.
It's unbelievable. I don't know where. Like, it's a good sign. It's a good sign.
Is it having any acoustic effect?
It might. It makes everything better, doesn't it? Didn't the Stanley Cup make everything better this weekend?
Lucky charm?
I have no explanation. It's supernatural.
I'm willing to go to 3 years at $10 million, $3.33 million for Dakota Joshua. You?
I would probably do that as well. I think people have to put some of this in perspective in terms of what, will happen here with this negotiation. I'm sure that Dakota Joshua's representation will ask for sun, moon, and stars. That's their job.
How it works.
That's their job. But ultimately, the stats, and this is obviously after what we saw, I'm going to be the last person to denigrate Dakota Joshua.
No.
But this is a guy coming off a career year of 18 goals. Was it a 20-goal pace? Yes, but he's never scored 20 goals. His only 2 seasons in double-digit goals have been this year and last year. Combined, these 2 seasons
and you're going to bring
29
all
goals.
of those things up. But here's the thing. He gives you an element you don't otherwise have an already weak position group winger. He's got the size, but he's got the hands to match the size.
Yes.
And he has formed chemistry with Connor Garland when so many Canucks tried and failed at that because Garland is such an unorthodox player. And you know that Garland is going to be back on his ticket after a terrific
And this is the difference between RFA and UFA is that if he's an RFA, I think you get him on something that begins with a 2. But of course, here as a UFA, he can just say, I know you think that I'm only worth X,
right?
But I'm going to see what everybody else thinks. And that's where it gets a little bit sticky for the Vancouver Canucks.
More on Dakota Joshua as we get into our top story in the game 1 on Sunday. But first, it had been 9 years, 3,286 days since the Vancouver Canucks hosted a Stanley Cup playoff game at Rogers Arena. They do so, and they cap a weekend where all 6 home teams emerged victorious in game 1. We knew that this was a fantastic hockey city. We know this is a fantastic event city. And last night, it all came flooding back. Inside the building, outside the building, in Surrey at 72nd and Scott Road, and many other points in and around Lower Mainland and British Columbia. Let's start by hearing from JT Miller, who had, quite a response when asked about the crowd that greeted them to U2's Streets Have No Name. Take a listen.
On the ice today was probably one of the more special things I've been a part of, other than the birth of my children and my wedding. It's hard not to get choked up when you see that. I mean, that literally is everything. That emotion and that noise and the towels. I mean, if you can't get up for that, then you got something wrong with you. Like that was amazing. I think I got a different perspective on what hockey means to these people here, and it was awesome.
Glad to hear that. And yes, it means everything. It's cultural in Canada. It's what we do. It's identity. And so the local club team making a run in the best league in the world, that is very special times, very meaningful times, and sort of stitching the different fabrics of this community together. We say it all the time. The best thing about sports is it brings otherwise disparate citizens together under a common banner. And this banner is Canuck. This town's banner is Canuck, and everybody is on board.
For any player that you're worried about re-signing,
Well, that's
moments like that can have an effect. Now it's fleeting. It's one game. If they go on to lose the series in 6, it means a little less. But it's something. It's still something for that player. And when it comes to Quinn Hughes, who said he was taken aback too. He was
go up and down the list. They all were moved
like,
emotionally. I mean, and what I love about it is what you're alluding to there is, suddenly we have a different perspective on this market now, right?
Right.
Suddenly we're not whining to our agent to go whine to Rick Dollywall about playing in this. The
market. Magnifying glass doesn't feel so
exactly.
bad now.
People don't want to play here.
Yeah.
Canard.
Yeah.
This is one of the great cities the world over to live in, and it's one of the great hockey environments the world over to experience. I like this tweet from Omar Canuck, an account we've become familiar with over the years. It says, one interesting, pretty cool thing being at the Canucks game tonight was seeing a new generation of fans who have never seen the arena like this. 20-year-olds and kids being blown away by the energy and the white towels. You were saying last week you got a 15-year-old, 13-year-old that you've had to basically give a playoff primer to. Like, you weren't old enough to understand the last time there was a game here. And you saw a lot of that, and I'm sure it was sensory overload for those young people who have not experienced a playoff game in Vancouver until Sunday.
My 19-year-old son called me right after the game. I had to decline his call because we were doing our post-game video, but I caught up with him as soon as we were done. I couldn't get him off the phone. He was brimming over with excitement, and he said, Dad, I can barely remember the last time I felt like this. I was 6.
He's on the island? He's on
the island right now. He said I was 6 for 2011, and I remember standing on the sofa, because he was only 6, with his the rest of his other cousins around him, and I remember waving the towels in the living room. He's like, I had forgotten that memory until I saw it again. Like, honestly, this is a generation that has forgotten what that feeling is like. And it blew people away, I think.
Yeah. Your first son has to know he was busy with surrogate son.
That's right.
He sometimes calls me by his son's name.
That's right. Usually when I'm angry.
They're similar. And yes, when he's angry. Let's get to our top story, brought to you by Douglas. Canucks win 4-2 in game 1 over the Nashville Predators in their Western Conference playoff series. They take the lead heading into Tuesday's game 2. The hero, Dakota Joshua, or Playoff D, as Quinn Hughes referred to him in a post-game dressing room ceremony, where Dakota Joshua was chosen as the standout player to take a puck and put it into the frame of 16 Stanley Cup playoff victories needed to win the cup. He gets 3 points, 2 goals. You may remember he was called out early in the season by his head coach. I need more from Dakota Joshua. Boy, did he respond over the course of this season. Quinn Hughes winds up the captain with 2 assists after they credit Pius Suter with tipping that shot by Hughes, which was initially credited as his goal. 9 different Canucks dot the score sheet. Thatcher Demko makes 20 saves, including the best in the first period off our old friend Anthony Beauvillier.
2.5 minutes in.
Stretch across. I mean, it could be a much different game if that puck goes in. And perhaps the best part, a relatively easy night for Quinn Hughes in terms of minutes logged and hits. And look, I think we sized up the Nashville Predators quite appropriately going into this series. Now, much can change. They can get on a heater. They had an 18-game point streak earlier this year. They still have one of the best goaltenders in the world. And if he gets scorching hot, watch out. But last night, Sunday, they didn't have the offense, the defense, or the goaltending to put the game away. And I think that's what they are. They're a great first line. They're a great defense pair. They're a goaltender who, when he's on, can keep you in, help you win any game. He's had a huge workload this year. You wonder whether that's going to take a toll on him as this season goes along. But I think the conclusion coming out of game one is Canucks didn't play very well at times, especially early on. I think the playoff inexperience showed up in the early going, but they got away with that, and they got a victory. They're not chasing the series down 0-1, and they have been chasing 5 of their last 6 Stanley Cup playoff series until this one.
And no home playoff teams are chasing through 14, and the league's trying to go 16 for 16 in that regard. The shots need to increase.
8 for 8.
8 for 8, pardon me. 16 teams. 8 for 8. The shots
of 8 so
the shots need to increase.
Yeah, areas of improvement. I got a list we're going to go through.
But in terms of UC Saros, like, make him. You could make the argument here with his 64 games started already.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the second round of the playoffs for him. Look at what Thatcher Demko's at.
Right.
That's going to be Thatcher Demko deep into the second round if the Canucks get there.
Right.
That's where he's at. Make him work. Get him going side to side. Stop being picky too. Like, if you're in tight, like, that near miss, Garland feeding Lindholm charging towards the net where Lindholm just didn't get a piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
God, I want to see Garland shoot that instead.
You almost wonder whether the Demko injury becomes a blessing in disguise, and that it got him the rest that he needed heading into the playoffs, because I'm not sure there was a scenario where he wouldn't have been around UC Saros.
It's true.
In terms of workload and starts, had he not missed with that injury. Let's hear from Douglas.
Douglas mattresses, the best mattresses. Are they really? Well, according to Canadian Living, yeah, Douglas mattresses are the best mattresses to get for they keep you all the right temperatures, whether it's warm in the wintertime, cool in the summertime. You want to get yourself into a Douglas. Order yours today. Head to douglas.ca/Canucks Army. They're handcrafted in Canada, ensuring the highest quality materials and the fastest delivery right to your doorstep. Get a free comfort sleep bundle right now. There's 2 memory foam pillows with protectors, a luxurious cotton sheet set, and a mattress protector, free with any mattress order. Again, douglas.ca/Canucks Army.
There was an incredible photograph taken of the celebration after Dakota Joshua scores the 3-2 goal. I saw you quote tweeted it, said it looks like a Renaissance art painting.
Study every face.
The expressions on their face.
Every face is different too.
Incredible. And you love the crowd in the background as well. Love the crowd watching in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Rick Tocchet addressed the first star in game one. Here's the head coach on Dakota Joshua.
Dakota just doesn't know how good he can be. He knew there was another level there. We just had to whether push him or find it. And I give him all the credit in the world because he, I think he knows now what it's going to take. He needs I thought this summer he learned from it, and I think him and Garland together have really kind of added this like a swagger to our team.
Yeah, you see it too. You see it on the bench. You see it on the ice. You see the confidence brimming with those two. And when that's your third line, and they're playing like they own the world out there, that's got to reverberate down the bench and through the dress.
And here's the way that benefits the Canucks in games 2, maybe, but certainly 3 and 4 if the trend continues, is this. The Preds, Andrew Burnett's going to start to focus on that line in defense of it. Well, and the Miller line was very good too. So there's 2 distractions there for Andrew Burnett, leaving open the possibility that they just have to forget about Elias Pettersson and Nils Höglander for a while. And does that open them up to make their impact in a game a little bit deeper into the middle part of this series?
Yeah. Well, we talked about it going in. One of the advantages the Vancouver Canucks have is those 3 centers that you're not going to be able to play the matchup game, particularly on the road with all 3 lines.
That's the thing. Somebody's left with a pretty advantageous matchup situation.
Well, and so a great segue here, because in true hockey player form, Dakota Joshua had a lot of questions about himself. Yesterday, he was more eager to talk about his line mate, Elias Lindholm. Take a listen.
He's a great player, so none of us really doubted that the offense would come from him. And yeah, it was a great goal to get us going. And then yeah, he showed obviously some of his hockey IQ there, getting in on the forecheck and creating that goal. So he just makes you feel a lot more confident in your own game, knowing that if you make a mistake, he's right there to back you up, and you don't have to question what he's doing. So it gives you more confidence in yourself.
He's banged up, and yet he's playing through it. And as Joshua mentions, he scores a goal, he creates a goal, the game-winning goal. And frankly, I was talking last night with some friends that if that puck doesn't go in for Lindholm, who knows what kind of game it is. And that's
wind underneath his wings there at that point.
For sure, because really you don't expect to score there. It takes a slight deflection off the Nashville defenseman, enough to squeak through Saros.
Yeah.
And incidentally, watch how many times the Canucks aim blocker with Saros. That is the hole in this goaltender, right under the arm and the blocker. So I think you'll see a lot of targeting of that area.
Lindholm's
and
another
it's a
one.
200-foot game from Lindholm, too. That much we knew.
Lindholm's another one of those guys. And I'm not saying I'm even at 50-50 of Lindholm coming back yet. It's still way below that. But there was a bug that was caught there, too. You could see the charge that Lindholm was getting after scoring that goal. Big exhale from him. He played a very strong game from there on in. And you also got the feeling that it feels like a Canuck now. One of his post-game comments, he talked about the third period, the better third period as a team. He said, that's our identity.
Yep.
That's who. And all of a sudden, that perked me up like, oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
And not that he was anti-Canuck at that point. I'm just saying, like, that's the first time he just sort of gushed about bleeding blue, I think. And there's your big moment.
Hey, we were worried at one point. Is this guy going to bleed for the Canucks? He's a UFA who's got a knock. Well, he proved that last night. Let's hear from head coach Rick Tocchet on Lindholm, saying this is why we acquired him.
Well, I mean, let's face it. That's why we acquired him for tonight. I mean, he was banged up, hurt and stuff, but this is, and when he didn't play there, he skated and stuff like that, which helped. But I think these are the games why you acquired Lindholm. He was really good, 200-foot game, really good.
Yep.
Intense. Responsible,
and just going forward, like with these three center icemen, you just hope you get enough goals from the wingers and the defense to allow you to play these sorts of games. How many times this season did Rick Tocchet come to a post-game podium and say, these are the sorts of games we have to learn to win?
Mm-hmm.
Those one-goal gritty games. And in some cases in the regular season, they weren't able to do it. In other cases, they were. But everything about Tocchet and the messaging early on, even when all those goals were going in the first half of the season, was we need to learn to win those defensively oriented, tight one-goal games. And, of course, we saw a ton of those in the second half when the Canucks scoring dried up a little bit, when they made what was really a remarkable transformation from a big-time goal-scoring, offensively oriented club in the first part of the season when the shooting percentage was sky high, the power play was extraordinary, and you sat there going, 2 goals down, they got this. I mean, it was that sort of confidence. It almost reminded me of the Twins a little bit in the heyday in terms of they're down 2 goals. Oh, well, they got the firepower to come on back. Second half of the season was a different matter, and they learned to win these sorts of games that you see in April, May, and June. The captain addressed that. Let's hear from Quinn Hughes, and that he liked the club's ability to stay patient in a one-goal game where you were trailing midway through the third period.
I think we just stayed patient the entire game and didn't really, push too hard or, give anything up when we were down going in the third. And we got our looks, and we knew we were going to get some looks. And then obviously for, Dak and Garley and Lindy to, get on the forecheck there and, 12 seconds after get us on the board and get us the lead. It was, massive.
And he was a guy,
they were going to get their looks.
He was a guy that was the victim of impatience, I thought, in the last couple of weeks of the season. Last week in particular, I thought Quinn Hughes was trying to do too much, and maybe it was trying to winning the scoring title in his mind, or maybe it was securing that division title, whatever it was. How many times did you see Quinn Hughes in his own zone as the last man back, could have gone glassing out, tries to curl back into his own zone and gets dispossessed, and all of a sudden the other team is in the attacking zone already. He didn't force it last night. He was patient, and in the third, he rose to the occasion, and he was far more visible with the puck on his stick, and he makes that goal happen, obviously, that ends up suitors. But, it was a good education. Everybody got their feet wet. Everybody got a little bit educated, and I thought it was a crash course over the first two periods. And they took a Predators team that was preached to us as, the greatest creator of scoring chances in the league, and they kept them at bay. I mean, as much as they had a lead, and you're still holding your breath every time they cross the Canucks blue line, of course. I don't know that there was many super close calls of this game getting out of hand in favor of the Nashville Predators. Some of that is Thatcher Demko, but a lot of it's just the system. Everybody played within it and made sure that the Predators were not going to add to the one goal lead that they already had.
There were, and we mentioned this, and folks, thank you for your support. We are doing sort of bite-sized, short post-game shows here on Sekeres Price. You got the long live one with Rink Wide Vancouver's Jeff Patterson and Irfan Ghaffar moments after the final horn. You'll have a shorter bite-sized podcastable one with us out shortly after games. Blake, we talked about this yesterday, but the Nashville Predators entered this game with 760 games of Stanley Cup playoff experience.
Mm-hmm.
The Vancouver Canucks had 300 less, 462. The Nashville first line, Philip Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, Gustav Nyquist, have more Stanley Cup playoff experience than the entirety of the Vancouver Canucks forward group. The Nashville top pair, Roman Josi, Ryan McDonough, have more Stanley Cup playoff experience than the entirety of the Vancouver Canucks defense corps. There were 3 Canucks making their Stanley Cup playoff debut last night: Philip Hronek, Nils Höglander, and Pius Suter. Suter scores. Nashville,
he had a good game too, but
yeah, he did. Nashville
good.
Actually had 4: Novak, Evangelista, Smith, and Stastny. And I know Rick Tocchet sort of fired back with, hey, we're in the same boat when Nashville wanted to play the underdog card. And look, both teams missed the playoffs last season. Their core groups have never sort of been together for successful playoff runs. I mean, Forsberg and Josi have been there a while in Nashville. You got to go back to 2018, the last time they actually won a Stanley Cup playoff
Fans
series.
and media both wanted this matchup,
right,
in each market, and it sounds like the players might have been in on that too. That each team wanted this team as the matchup. So you're getting what you asked for here, however it ends.
But I also thought it was a testament to that they stayed patient, didn't doubt themselves, as Hughes noted, knew they would get chances given the playoff inexperience, right? Like, that's when the anxiety takes hold.
Sure.
Oh my God, we're midway through the third period and we're down a goal in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's when you need to sort of forget the situation and just play your best, understanding and believing that the opportunities are going to come. And boy, did they bury their opportunities.
It wasn't
franchise record 2 goals in 12 seconds in the Stanley Cup playoffs to turn it around quickly.
It wasn't a terribly undisciplined game in that the Canucks had, given up 7 power plays to the Nashville Predators.
No,
it's just the timeliness of those power plays was a bit of a killer. So, and they might have gotten, a tough call on the Hronek one, maybe. It's especially because the Canucks power play didn't get their opportunities, didn't get their kicks at the can, right?
No, very good.
Yeah.
No.
And so you'd like to see that.
Honestly, that is still something that as you go forward, I think you worry a little bit about the Canucks. The power play was 0 for 2 last night. As we know, it was not great in the second half of the season. Okay. Going to get to some areas to improve here. So Elias Pettersson does a bookend interview with Elliot Friedman. You may remember he did one in the preseason when Sportsnet was over in Europe for the European tour, media tour. You remember where that interview took place?
It was on a boat.
On a boat. And Pettersson tells him that he'd be lying if he said he wasn't competitive on the William Nylander salary number, that it was important for Elias Pettersson to make more money than William Nylander, who, as you may know, is kind of a mystery absentee from this Leafs Bruins series, but also a huge star in Sweden right now. And you wonder whether that factors into it. I'm hoping Elias Pettersson gets more competitive on the ice of this series as much as he is with the William Nylander salary. That was a quiet game for number 40, a very quiet game. Now, Nils Höglander on his one side is a 0. He did nothing too. Sam Lafferty starts on the right side. He makes the big mistake after having to move in and take that face off. Misses his defensive assignment. Tocchet says he's got to play the center ice spot there, not the wing spot. Sure enough, Nashville scores, and we saw Ilya Mikheyev move up onto that line. And frankly, Mikheyev had a little jump last night. In fact, Mikheyev's been better here of late.
Yeah. I thought he was
bottom
more
line
assertive.
Isn't there, but
he was more assertive for sure.
Right.
Yeah, not often do you look at Pettersson's underlying stats. He was out Corsied. He was out expected goals. He was out scoring chanced. And he was out high danger chanced 4-1 at even strength.
Yeah. The Miller line was fantastic.
Yeah.
Did not have a lot of bottom line, but the Miller line winds up being pretty good.
Underlying stats are very good.
I mean, you would think I would have hoped for a little bit more through 40 minutes on the Miller line, but end of the game, they're fine. You can absolutely live with that.
What I would say about them is their scoring chances need to go up considering how much they had the puck.
That's it. They had a lot of zone time. They had a lot of possession. And it just, they weren't at their absolute A game in terms of connecting with each other and generating those great scoring chances. But the Pettersson line has to be miles better.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm saying, that's what my earlier comment is, if they want to focus more on that Lindholm line, maybe that gives a little bit of daylight onto the Pettersson line for them to have some success. And I think Brunett's probably going to wonder now, where are we going to, because you don't have the depth there in Nashville to say we're going to cover all three of them with the same amount of gusto.
No.
You're going to have to focus on two of them probably. So which two are you going to choose, Andrew?
Yeah, and well, I think he feels good about his two defense pairs. But the forward combinations is a different matter.
Yes. Yeah. And even the two defense pairs. I mean, it's still going to open up the opportunity for the Pettersson line on some shifts to get that third pairing.
Now,
to make some hay there.
I think we can all agree the Canucks need to put more shots on target. 21 shots in the hockey game. 14 attempts blocked, 20 missed shots. So if you're doing the math there, it's 65 attempts at the goal.
Try to move some of those, the missed ones over. The blocked ones, you're going to get block shots in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can cut that missed one in half, and then all of a sudden you're at 32 shots on the night and you're feeling a lot better about your chances, and you probably got 4 in the back of the net plus an empty netter rather than the 3 in the floor.
I think so. The other thing, and this was sort of a storyline that emerged over the course of the regular season. Other teams are going to try and get the Vancouver Canucks off their game and to lose their discipline. UC Saros, Ryan O'Reilly, Colton Sissons, all of them took turns going down very easily last night, looking to draw penalties. I think that's something that Rick Tocchet and the coaching staff will be drilling home here in advance of game 2.
Especially if the two big boys are around them.
Yeah, like these guys don't have the offensive firepower on a nightly basis to go up and down even strength and score a ton of goals. They're going to want to get on the power play, and they're willing to go down when they feel a stick near their skates to get that call.
But I think they're going to, anytime Tyler Myers and Nikita Zadorov are around them, they're going to be playing the big guy was mean to me card, and they're going to be crying about it.
Right.
The one thing I didn't bargain for about that, apparently Philip Roenick's got a bit of a temper.
Like, he does.
I think Philip Roenick's
a nasty little.
He's fired up right now, and he needs to be careful too because he's got a little temper on him.
Hey, win Tuesday, and Philip can say a couple days he'll be on holiday.
That's right.
Zadorov and Myers were terrific last night, the big guys, and
really good. To
hey, Tocchet made a point, told everybody who would listen, need more size on defense. Enter Susie, and enter Cole, enter Zadorov via trade. I thought Big C was the second best Canuck last night after Dakota Joshua. And Myers was some forays as well, and they were active both ends of the ice.
Yeah,
which
for
I
sure
liked.
they were.
They were punishing guys in their own end, and they weren't afraid to get in the rush and join the offensive attack on the opposite end. And, it's got to be a little intimidating. Those size of guys bearing down on you.
And they can make you look silly. They can make you look silly with
Yeah.
their reach and stuff.
No,
like
exactly.
they can make you look silly.
Myers and Zadorov, they're pretty good skaters for that size. Like, they are not big cement block lugs. They can move.
And for anybody
And
who
they can shoot the puck a little
for
too.
anybody who ever thought that we were being mean to Tyler Myers, you play well, you're going to get your praise, and he is playing well.
But discipline as well. There was a couple post-whistle scrums. Again, it's garden variety playoff stuff. Make sure you're not the guy retaliating and being picked out of those scrums to serve.
I was a little worried late. Dakota Joshua pushed somebody down late.
I think that's going to be part of the game plan here.
Yeah.
From Nashville. This was something that was going around the NHL this year. The Canucks are a team that you can knock off the game. Play them physical. See if they'll retaliate. See if they'll lose their discipline, their attitude, their focus. Let that frustration seep in. So we'll see how they do in that area of the game. Now, one other area to improve. And I'm going to give you an opportunity here, Price.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Rogers says, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. You going to double down on your X factor of Vasily Podkolzin after he doesn't play in game one? Or, as per the Rink-Wide Vancouver poll that's up right now at Rink-Wide Van, are we going lineup changed with a winning lineup? Vasily for Phil DiGiuseppe, who takes a penalty in this game and frankly wasn't very good.
Yeah, given the extra attention that Pods has been getting, and we're going to get an up to the second report on this coming up shortly with JPAT right here on the show, we hope. But given how much coaching Pods has had in the last week,
and Tocchet is with them individually, like virtually every practice or a huge number of sessions on ice. Tocchet spends individual time with Vasily. They are doing everything to try and make him an NHL
And I
player.
think they laid out this scenario. Listen, you're going to be my first guy at the bench, but here's what I need out of you. And I think he's been giving him a laundry list of things to work on and to be ready for. And I think he does come in to the lineup. And this is my WWE moment of, by God, that is Pods' music. And here he comes to solidify a Game 2 victory.
So you're not standing down on him as X Factor.
No. But again, X Factor is an unexpected contributor. Everybody expected Dakota Joshua. Did they? Yes.
Grady, you listening to this?
He agrees with me. So, you're appealing to the wrong guy.
Not after Sunday, he doesn't.
But again, you can't call Dakota Joshua a dark horse.
Blake, he's
a bell of the ball.
But Blake, to have an X-Factor, he's got to play first. This was the point I was trying to make on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance the guy's not in the lineup, then that's way too far down the queue for
Says you. It's a subjective.
What do you think? You're sitting on Peter Klima here?
Subjective criteria.
Don't drag me into this.
No. You're getting dragged in because you supported him last week. Stupidly, as it turned out.
Well,
you know
who was yours again?
Know it.
Who was yours again?
You both know it. Philip Roenick.
The second leading point getter on the blue line.
If he's first half Roenick, great. They're going to win the series easily. If he's second half Roenick, it's going to mean Quinn Hughes has to be a little better. Others are going to have to be a little better. This from Daniel Wagner, pass it to Boulis. There were 2 occasions against the Jets where Podkolzin failed to get the puck deep on a line change. One led to a goal against. One led to a too many men on the ice penalty. So when your final impression on the head coach is 2 really bad things on a pretty simple play, I can understand why he went DiGiuseppe.
Well,
in
I think
game 2.
that doesn't
or in
surprise,
game 1.
doesn't
Now,
surprise me at all.
It
Veteran guy,
no, exactly.
safe play.
No, exactly. And here's the thing. It also wouldn't surprise me if Podkolzin plays game 2. Like Di Giuseppe gave you almost nothing and took a penalty. So I know coaches, fans stick with a winning lineup. Blake and I on this show for years have said, no, be proactive.
And it's all about adjustments in the playoffs.
Adjustments.
All about
adapt
adjustments.
what you need to win that game. Plus, fresher legs. Have a kid who's really, really motivated. It will be his first Stanley Cup playoff game.
And honestly, the Di Giuseppe penalty is a penalty that, you would expect out of a guy like Pods, like you just over exuberance, unencumbered, and you've got to do that smartly. And he just went wildly swinging and took the legs out.
Plus, this is the spot for Podkolzin because you can hide him at home if need be.
Yep.
And the veteran on the road in Nashville filled Di Giuseppe games 3, games 4, if in fact you don't feel good about Podkolzin and you think he's costing.
Pods, despite his counting stats this year, I think gives you a far greater chance of an offensive contribution than PDG does.
I think you're right. Reminder, our friends at the Daily Faceoff and Frank Cervelli is here in Vancouver. He's staying here at the Wall Center. He's recording his podcasts in the Nation Network studio and in our secondary studio, our green room. Get ready for the Daily Faceoff Playoff Parlay Challenge. Each game day, answer 4 questions, pick the winning team, guess if points will be over or under, predict the first goal, choose the highest scoring period, daily winner, snag gift cards, chance of each round, pocket cash. Play now, games.dailyfaceoff.com. Prove your puck prowess. It's fast, it's fun, it's all about hockey. Let's get it going. Dakota Joshua, first star. We're going to give the fans second star, right?
Yes. All the
third
fans.
Star, and not a guy who's often praised on this show, Chairman Francesco Aquilini.
Not Elias Lindholm? Elias?
Again, I was Zadorov. Lindholm, great shouts.
His staff, you mean? There was zero chance he was involved in that tweet.
So at the end of the day, he's got to green light it one way or the other. So a couple of things happened here.
Look at the interaction on that tweet.
Except the comments are turned off, right?
Yeah. Classic.
So was it years ago? Francesco tweets, man, so tight, almost like a playoff.
Was it against the Coyotes? Like, it was a meaningless game.
It was a regular season game. That much we know.
Yeah.
Well, yesterday from the official account, and I checked it, I don't know, 4 or 5 times.
Just
to make sure.
Am
I really seeing this? Man, so tight. Almost like a playoff game. So one of 2 things happened here. Either somebody else has admin on his Twitter account, and that brave soul went to Francesco and said, hey, boss.
This will play.
So
it was
you may not remember this, but years ago you tweeted, man, so tight, almost like a playoff game. And it got sort of like a cult following on Twitter. And most people were making fun of you about it. But here's a way to re-empower that.
Martinegro.
And gain some goodwill. What do you think? Is it okay if I tweet, man, so tight, almost like a playoff game?
And Martinegro egged it on.
So either that happened or Francesco independently, following the Twitter.
Not a chance.
Went, they've made fun of me for that tweet for years. I got him tonight. And in which case, if it happened from his own creation, well done, Frank. Well done. Brought a big smile to my face and many, many others.
I think he's more in tune with the market than you'd think.
Well, rich guys tend to have a lot of time on their hands.
It was a November 18th game, or November 27th game in 2018 between LA, then last place in the Pacific Division, and a below 500 Vancouver Canucks team.
Yeah. One of dozens, hundreds. They played hundreds of games like that since their last postseason appearance.
Neutral zone trap, so tight.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, Grady? Do you think it was an admin, or do you think Frank came to this on his own?
Come on.
I may give him some credit here.
Yeah, I think he came. I think it was him, and he probably said, hey, admin. Maybe it was one of his kids, like the
Well,
Coyotes.
I know at one point his
owner.
girlfriend was very attuned to Twitter because we
she
were
was
getting
battling.
were we getting notes from this
Yeah, and it
lady
was
friend?
so obvious it was her burner too.
Oh,
No, I'm not going to give any credit.
All right.
It's been admin.
so we'll see if Francesco is active on Twitter.
Good comic moment. I'm not going to take away from the
fantastic.
comic moment. Very
got to give it its due.
good comic timing.
Yeah,
But I want to give the right people the comic
for
timing.
sure. And I love what our friend Timar tweeted. Everybody east of Alberta is not going to get this.
Completely.
You know, people watching the game last night and on Twitter, anywhere but BC and the Lower Mainland or Canucks fans across the world saw that and went, "What the hell is the Canucks owner tweeting about?
Yeah.
What does he mean?
It's not
It
almost
is a playoff
Yeah,
game.
exactly. Yeah.
It's an inside Canucks Twitter joke.
Like, I'm wondering if there's a aggregator back east who's planning the story. Canucks owner doesn't realize they're in the playoffs. I also want to shout out this tweet from Stephen Hocko. So 54 years for the Vancouver Canucks, no Stanley Cups. Closest they ever got, and Nathan Lafayette post away in Game 7 of the 94 Stanley Cup Finals against the New York Rangers. This is the 30-year anniversary of that Stanley Cup Final. One of the great Stanley Cup Finals in the history of the league. The Rangers snapped a 54-year drought to win that cup.
Oh, really?
Do you see how we're aligning here?
Oh, the numerology.
Steven says, it is written.
It is written. Yeah.
So, dare to dream here. That's what happened. You know, it's funny because when Burroughs scored the dragon slaying goal in 2011, BMAC and I are doing the show the next day on 1040. And we open the phone boards and we throw to a gentleman who's got a bit of an accent. And he says, "Congratulations, Stanley Vancouver Canucks. You are champions of the first round." BMAC and I just lost it. I almost feel like the same applies here today because it's been so long.
Champion of Game 1.
You're champions of Game 1, Vancouver Canucks. Well done.
Yeah, well, a prominent Predators account was trolling Vancouver Canucks fans for just that sort of reaction, only to be chirped back of the fact that the Predators have a banner hanging from the rafters celebrating their regular season Western Conference championship, which isn't really a thing.
No, so here's the thing. When you haven't had a playoff game in your city in 9 years and you haven't won a playoff series in 4 years, in a Canadian market, again, where hockey is identity, hockey is culture. Absolutely. Yes.
But I don't think
these moments are few and far between. Go celebrate. But like, no one's sitting there and going, "Oh,
come on, get on there, bro." Oh my God. Dude, have you followed the brakes?
What did people do that was over the top? This is not over the top.
The crowning of the Towel Power stick.
Now, again, literally, this is weird because it signals, that you're giving up the white towel. But we know that it's taken on a different meaning.
Re-empowered, different meaning here.
Yeah.
And credit to Huggy X Huggy.
For sure. Great video. That. But to the act like you've been there before, we haven't. They haven't.
But they didn't do anything weird.
Not this group.
There was no parade.
A lot of the fans were really young the last time they were winning Stanley Cup playoff games here in Vancouver.
But they want a silent procession out of the arena? Like,
come on.
They're celebrating a win, a playoff win. I don't know what else you're supposed to do.
Playoffs are near, and we have an army. Nation Gear ready to gear you up for Vancouver's playoff run. Rep your favorite team as they battle for the Cup. Shop the exclusive We Have an Army playoff tee and more at nationgear.ca. Big week at Greta, 50 West Cordova downtown.
Mm-hmm.
I say that because our buddy Frank Saravelli is going to be there tonight, 7 o'clock onwards. A watch-along party. He's going to take questions and answers. Well, take questions, provide answers. So go ahead and head on down to Greta Monday, 7 o'clock. See Frank. Ask him a tough question too. Really put him on his toes. Then Friday and Sunday, we are going to be there for watch parties, road game watch parties at Greta. Of course, it's a 4:30 start on Friday. We're in Nashville now. And it's a 2:00 start on Sunday. Great food, great drink, great prizes. We'll be doing some trivia, getting together with like-minded people to watch these road games. So join us at Greta all week long, Monday, Friday, Sunday, as we get into our menu here, brought to you by Greta. Former Vancouver Canucks coach Mark Crawford is going to join us coming up. His son Dylan Crawford is the video coach for the Canucks.
Played a role.
Played a big role last night. I didn't think it was close to goaltender interference. I'm like, what is Demko talking about? Why are they actually deliberating this? You don't challenge that.
He was great in the regular season too on the challenge.
Yes, he was. But no, I can understand it's the playoffs and you gave up a goal and you're disappointed about it, but you can't compound that mistake by going to a flimsy, and I think it would have been the flimsiest challenge.
Yeah, it was the blade of the stick with the glove is what they were hoping for. But the puck
is past the Blake at that point.
Yeah.
And it's clear as day. So great job, Dylan Crawford, because head coach asked him to confirm a second time and with some language. And Dylan Crawford in the video group said, no, coach, it's a goal. Can't challenge that one. So Mark's going to join us. He's over coaching in Switzerland, of course, former Vancouver Canucks head coach. And I got to say this. I absolutely adored the years that Mark Crawford was on Hockey Night in Canada. I thought he was one of those analysts who could take you into the finer points of the game in regular English and make everybody understand.
Mm-hmm.
And he proves that again with us here.
Yeah.
Fantastic strategic tactical breakdown.
And he knows what goes into
and he knows the town too.
There's another inside Canuck joke. Yeah. If you know it, you know it.
But he still lives here. He knows the town. He knows the spirit. He knows the building. He knows the market, the fans, all of it. So great to get Mark back on the show. And we'll have J-Pat live at Rogers Arena as the Canucks practice in advance of Game 2. It's all coming up. Mark Crawford is next. Northlands Golf Course. Download the free app and book tee times with a touch of your thumb. And while you're on course, open the app for hole-by-hole GPS and track your score. 6 to 90-day reservations. Jump the queue. Lock in your date for $10 per player booking fee. Limited daily availability. Check it all out. GolfNorthlands.com.
In a season like this, you never want to miss a single second of what's happening on the ice, and you want to be around your fellow fans, right? Well, Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova, the perfect spot to do so. Hey, if you've got tickets, a great place to pre and post. They've got drink specials every single day. And if you don't have tickets, well, stick around and soak up the atmosphere with all your fellow fans, play all the great video games and air hockey, great air hockey set up as well at Greta Bar YVR. We'll see you there, 50 West Cordova.
Our next guest is brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club, counting down till opening day on May 10th. Follow the spring preparations at Whistler Golf on social, and the club reminds organizers of groups of 12 or more. It's time to lock in those tee times for the 2024 season. The prime times are filling up fast, and just for reaching out to hold that tee time, you, the organizer, plays for free. Tell us about your group. Whistler Golf will take care of the rest. Go to whistlergolf.com/groups. Our next guest coached 560 games for the Vancouver Canucks, including 31 in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and he knows a thing or two about bringing a team back to the playoffs here in Vancouver and the atmosphere inside Rogers Arena. It's our pleasure to welcome former Canucks coach Mark Crawford back to Sekeres Price. How you doing, Coach?
It's great to be with you guys. It's nice that that you've asked me to join you. I always love joining Blake and Matt. That's great.
Wow. And thanks for doing it, Mark, because you're up early there in Switzerland. You got your league final going on. You're coaching Zurich, and yet there you and your missus up bright and early watching the Vancouver Canucks this morning.
It sounds like she was more eager than you almost, though.
She's given it to me today because I didn't get the NHL package here. And, we were basically listening a little bit. Then finally we got it on one of the Italian channels.
Amazing. And I'm sure it makes you, I mean, as much as you're embroiled in your own finals at home in Switzerland, it does make you want to come home and relive some of that magic. And the players afterwards, Mark, were quick to point out the goosebumps that they had. You felt those goosebumps. Tell us what that's like.
Well, just even watching the anthem last night, like I watched that earlier today, and just the atmosphere around the rink. Everybody's into it. Everybody's singing, and that home atmosphere just means so much. It's really been interesting here. The first 6 games, the home ice has prevailed in every game in the playoffs so far. And I know for us, when I was coaching the Canucks, that home atmosphere, getting out to a good start in game 1, that's so important. And I was very happy to see the Canucks win last night.
What did you make of the third period, Mark, and the Canucks getting the 2 quick ones to turn the momentum of the game? Will change the game, win the game.
I thought I saw just an extreme focus on their team, to get the puck in deep, to really do the things that they do well. They're a team that advances the puck really well. They support the puck extremely well. And last night, what they did well is they got to the loose pucks in the offensive zone, and then they created their scoring chances. And so, when you're crashing the net and you're getting pucks to the net, that just seems to be what's done in the playoffs nowadays, even more so than back in my time when I was coaching the Canucks. But I really enjoyed the energy that they had, as well as the energy within the building.
Tactically, strategically, Mark, what's going to be important for Vancouver in this series? How would you attack Nashville, and what are you worried about coming back from the other end?
Well, I think that the key for me with Nashville is their active defense, whether it's Carrier or certainly Josie. I mean, they just are such an active group coming back on the second wave of attack. I thought looking at some of their younger players, I would be excited in Nashville of a player like Luke Evangelista. He looks like he's got that little bit of dash and that little bit of juice. Obviously, they've had a big line this year in Forsberg and the resurgence of Gustav Nyquist. But for me, I thought the Canucks did a really good job of stymieing certainly the line of Forsberg's line. They were -3 last night against the line. I thought Lindholm played extremely well, and he's one of those players that skates so well and positionally is so well that you can trust him. And I thought that was the big difference in the game last night is they were able to keep a lid on that top group from Nashville. And I thought that the guys that really carried the day were people like Joshua and Garland and those guys just crashing and banging and getting in deep and really having strong offensive zone time.
Nope. Is that sustainable, Mark? Like, can they win the series with the third line being the best line, or at some point are you going to need the top 6?
No, you always need your top guys. I think, you saw last night, you get the power play goal from Nashville came from their top guys, and when O'Reilly has that kind of time, he can pick a spot. And that's the same with the Canucks, like they've got a great defense that walks the line extremely well. I haven't seen anybody better than Quinn Hughes at walking the line this year. And, they're going to score goals like they did last night, where he walks the line and Piasuter gets the tip in front of the net. And on their power play, I mean, the Canucks are a very, very diverse power play. They can come at you with Besser, they can come at you with Miller, they can come at you with Pettersson. There's so many weapons for them on that power play that it's tough to keep everybody in check. So, last night it was a game where Lindholm and Joshua and Garland were probably the guys that had the most effect in the forward group. But that the other guys are going to want their time, and they're going to have their games where they're the dominant forces as well. And you're absolutely right. You need everybody, and you certainly need your stars.
Preds aren't that experienced in the playoffs either, but they make the Canucks, they look like old gray wizards next to the Canucks. Can you coach poise? Because the Canucks showed some poise there. Is that just going to be inside the players, or it's not? Or is there something Rick Tocchet can do to make sure they don't panic when they let in a 2-1 goal that maybe could have been challenged, maybe not, and you just have to sort of take your licks there and accept that you're trailing again after working so hard but they didn't panic. And is that just in a player, or is there something Rick Tocchet can do to make sure these guys, stay focused?
Well, I think what he did last night was the absolute perfect thing to do. And you're right, the poise of the coach matters. I lost a lot of jobs because I didn't have poise behind the bench. It is, any good team, and the good teams that I won series with, they're always team led. They're inside driven, and it's always about the players that are playing. But the coach has to be the one that kind of is a buffer. He's a buffer on the bench. He makes subtle decisions during the game. Like last night, they saw that it wasn't working with Lafferty up with the top guys, and they moved Mikhailov back. And I thought that was a real strong move during the game. Again, you're looking at matchups all the time, and you're trying to keep your matchups going. And then it's those things like you point out. Yeah, like that was a strong decision or non-decision by Rick Tocchet last night. If you do challenge, then you run the risk of whether you're going to solve it or not. And you can talk to the NHL people; they're never going to give you the answer unless you do challenge. And I thought last night it was the right move, and it showed confidence in his team that they could come back for him. And exactly as Matt said, there was no need to panic because there was lots of game left, and you saw them take over in the third.
Pettersson had
Hey, no, before we leave that, because he brought it up, pretty good call by the video coach.
Yes, the video coach has to make the right call, and Dylan and Greg did a good job, but at the same time, Rick's got to be the guy that makes the decision.
That's what he said.
Hey, well, my understanding is Rick gave him "Are you bleeping sure?"
and imagine if they say, imagine if they challenge that. They don't get the success. They go on the penalty kill again, give up another goal, and it's 3-1. So you know what? It's it all worked out in the end, probably for the Vancouver Canucks.
Well, I'm just glad Dylan stood his ground.
Yes,
with the head coach challenging him like that, because he was right.
Pettersson struggled at the end of the season. He wasn't going like gangbusters. There was kind of more of that for him in game number 1. Not that he played bad, but he certainly wasn't a guy that was saying, "Get on my back." Yeah. You just let it play out. I mean, how much do you think Rick Tocchet gets in the face of a previous 100-point guy, 90-point guy for him this year? Like, what do you do with a struggling superstar?
You just talk to him. You keep trying to point out things that maybe he can do and to help his game. And the other thing is, maybe you talk to him and tell him everything's going to be all right if he keeps playing with the energy and the forcefulness that he's trying to play with. I mean, I really like Elias Pettersson. I think he's one of the top players in the league, and he's going to find this series. And him working with his line, it's going to be a series where there's not much room. There won't be a lot of room. You look at that defense from Nashville, when you're playing against McDonough all the time, or you're playing against Josi, or you're against Lozon, who's a big shutdown guy. Carrier is a real sharp defenseman. There's not a lot of room, and the best of players, that's where it is. If you have 4 good defensemen on your team, it's usually they have the matchup for the 2 lines, and that's why you need that 3rd and 4th line. Special teams always make a difference, but you've got to recognize that you're playing against top defenders in the National Hockey League when you're getting to the playoffs, and top defenders don't make a lot of mistakes. So it's always going to be tough for those top players.
What do you make of the Twin Towers last night, Zadorov and Myers, and how active they were both ends of the ice, Mark?
I thought the Big Z was pretty good last night. I had the Big Z in Chicago, and he's a delightful character. He sometimes drives you crazy with his antics, but you gotta love the way when he plays his game and he's on his game. He's a top D. He really is. And Myers has just had such a great year. They cover so much space. So when they're using their sticks as well as they were using their sticks last night, first on puck and just squashing plays, I thought that was really good. And the Big Z made a couple of great outlet passes that made a difference. I think he got an assist on the Lindholm goal. So that was a good play. And he was, for me, a guy that played a very good game for them last night.
He's quite a character, Mark. Did you have some fun with him in Chicago? Give us a big Z story from Chicago.
The Big Z, he's one of the few players that's from Moscow. There's not a lot of players in the NHL that are from the city of Moscow. And I used to like hearing his stories about the city of Moscow, the Big Z. But, he's a guy that's got tons of confidence. And if you don't think so, just ask him. I mean, he's got it. And again, I always thought that he played his best when he played with authority. If he was going to play, and he had a little burr under his backside, that's usually when you got the best of the Z. I mean, he's such a big guy, and for a big guy, he skates very, very efficiently.
It's only a 1-0 series lead, but it is a series lead, and you've won a bunch of series. You've had in Vancouver, the Detroit series, the second round series versus Minnesota, of course. There's the weight of leading the series as well. Is a 1-0 series lead tolerable? Is it when it gets to 2-0, 3-1 where you start to feel the weight? Or tell us about sort of and people say there's no momentum in the playoffs. So maybe they are standalone silos here, but what did you have to guard against the team changing mindsets because you had a series lead?
Well, that's the whole thing. The experiences that I've been through now is that you want to give yourself about an hour to enjoy the victory last night, and then get it out of your mind. You have to have very, very short memories, both good and bad, in the playoffs. And that was the one thing I texted to my son last night was, hey, great win, great team win, and just get your guys ready for game 2. And that's really where it becomes the focus starts almost immediately. Get your rest, get yourself ready, because game 2 is the only one that you've got tomorrow night, and that's the one you got to win.
Well, we wish the Crawford family the best, and we hope for some stress-free decisions from the video coordinator as the series goes along. Mark, fantastic insight, as always, my friend. Thank you for joining here today, and we'll catch up with you real soon here.
Thanks, guys. Go Canucks.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now. Hey, you. No, not you. You. Are you an owner operator? You have a fleet of trucks or cars? Well, CalPro Plus might be the dedicated tire program just for you.
Free program includes exclusive deals and savings, price match guarantee, flexible financing, and preferred pricing on everything you drive.
Also, you get a dedicated member support line. That means that you can get questions answered. Also, they'll source and recommend the right tire for you, your application, and your budget.
Cal Tire's network of 260 plus stores are here to help so you can focus on the road ahead. Sign up for free at calproplus.com. Matt Sekeres, Blake Price, presentation of Applewood Auto Group back here, and we're going to be joined here in a moment by Jeff Patterson down at Rogers Arena, where the Vancouver Canucks are practicing, albeit it is a sparse practice. More on that from Jeff. Just a few things on the Mark Crawford interview. First of all, you can tell he's a proud papa.
Yeah.
His son Dylan, of course, the Canucks video coach, who made a very correct and very nervy call last night, and not to challenge that goaltender interference. For me, it was obvious, but when you've got the head coach and the bench, like, thinking, that's a difficult spot to be in. And of course, you're up against the clock. So well done there.
Well, it's what the cameras show. Like, even if you just have to see it to believe it first. So good choice.
Secondly, loved his answer there on Poise, including the bar bet himself. I lost some gigs because of a lack of poise. And as we talked about in the opening blog, I think that's going to, first of all, great question. Can you coach poise? I think that's going to be important for the Canucks, because I think the Predators are going to try and knock them off their game with a variety of tactics. I think it's only going to get more pronounced in Nashville when they'll have that bang home crowd at their side, right? Everybody at Bridgestone Arena will be quick to try and pressure the officials into penalty calls on the Vancouver Canucks. And also because, that became a bit of a theme this year in terms of what teams tried to do with the Canucks. Play them physical, see if they'll retaliate, see if you can get the better side of the referee's whistle and knock them off their game. Not to mention, I loved his storytelling about Big Z, Nikita Zadorov, who he coached in Chicago. I didn't realize that a lot of NHL players don't actually come from Moscow proper. You do see guys listing Moscow as the hometown, but very big city.
Well, to be fair, like downtown Toronto doesn't produce a lot of
nor does downtown Vancouver because we don't have enough rain.
That's the thing. So it's generally on the outside. But yeah, the Zadorov stuff just shows you like we've all got the right read on Zadorov. Mm-hmm. Like his confidence is either going to be his reason, his superpower, or it's going to be his downfall because he gets overconfident at times. And that would be the one thing. And we'll ask Jeff this in a second here. Great game from Zadorov. You are still not Bobby Orr, though. Just keep it cool, keep your skates on the ground, and play your game, not anybody else's.
Mm-hmm. Of course, Nikita Zadorov would have been too young, but given what we know of his politics and what he has said about Russia and the invasion of Ukraine, you can bet he would have been one of the Moskva down at Gorky Park listening to the wind.
Oh my gosh.
Of change.
Only you would bring scorpions into this. I thought you were going to say he's most certainly not.
It's a beautiful song.
He probably doesn't share politics with Bobby Orr either.
With who?
Bobby Orr.
Oh, right. Yeah, him. Yeah. In a moment here, we'll be joined by Jeff Patterson at Rogers Arena. So just first things first, and Jeff will explain when he gets on here. Practices in the Stanley Cup playoffs tend to be quite optional.
Yeah.
If there is a point that coach really needs to drive home, then you may see a full group practice with the actual drills that you would see in the regular season.
You got the double off day coming up, so you probably get a full practice there.
So you'll see that. A lot of it is done on video, and really most of it is done for load management. These coaches know how difficult these playoff games are, that they take a greater toll than your regular season games. Of course, you're going to have the travel, and in some cases, as Ryan Kessler said to us last week, once you get past game 4, you're pretty much traveling every day, right? 5, 6, 7, the do-si-do of the home team, the lower seed getting their game 6, and then back potentially for game 7, although you're travel back regardless, right? If you win the series in 6 games from the road rink. And of course, the other thing we know is you are hard pressed to find 2 further cities in the Western Conference than Vancouver up here on the Pacific Coast, and Nashville, which is in Central Time, and really, as much an Eastern city as it is a Western city. Is Jeff ready to go? Let's get to Jeff Patterson here from Rogers Arena. Jeff, we were just explaining practices take on a bit of a different look in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but you tell us, what have you seen there this morning?
Yeah, not much. 9 skaters and 2 goaltenders, and one of them wasn't Thatcher Demko. So, load management. I think guys have been playing through things down the stretch. We saw a little bit of load management in Game 82 in Winnipeg, and there's also a little bit of gamesmanship in as much as you don't want to tip your hand. If somebody needs a maintenance day, if there's only 9 guys out on the ice, it's hard to deduce who's missing for what reason. So I think a lot of that. But ultimately, I think Rick Tocchet's pretty happy that it's the way his team played, got better as the night went along. And, there's some things to clean up, certainly. But I think all things considered, pretty solid start to the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs for the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, it also makes it difficult on lineup changes and line combinations. More on that in a moment. But first, Jeff, we're just sitting here talking the first Stanley Cup playoff game in this city in 9 years and more than 3,000 days. I'm interested in your experience and what you felt of the day in the game last night.
Yeah, I mean, a beautiful day. Sun was shining as I drove downtown to the game. Canuck jerseys on every street corner. It had that feel that the playoffs were back. And obviously, once in the building, 9 years of pent up emotion and frustration and excitement and all of that, and the intros. And really, it started with warm up and late arriving crowd, because it was funny. You can tell when there's a towel draped over every seat. You can see who has taken their towel and who hasn't. And for warm up, I thought, wow, I kind of expected that more people might be in the building. But by the time the national anthems rolled around and the puck was ready to drop, seats were filled, and it was terrific. And again, a bit of a slow build. Obviously, didn't have any goals to cheer about in the first period, but lots of big hits. The Canucks with 20 hits, so a hit a minute in that first period of play. And then the Lindholm goal got people into this game, got the Canucks on the scoreboard, settled things down a little bit, because you're fine when you're down 1-0. But you're also one bounce away from being down 2-0. And we know that the excitement can turn to angst in a hurry. So I thought the Lindholm goal was important. It was important for him. It was important for the Vancouver Canucks. It's kind of funny the day after. And again, I think people forget what it sounds like when the roof's about to blow off this place. But I saw a lot of people saying, loudest this has been in a decade. And I call BS on that entirely, because how quickly we forget the Sedin swan song and their farewell. And that night, this place popped. And again, it didn't have the pregame pomp. I mean, everybody knew what it was building to, and then to have the storybook finish. But when Daniel scored from Henrik in overtime, that was as loud as we've heard this place since 2011. And so just remember, don't forget the Sedins. They did a lot for this team in this city, and people seem to want to forget that night and just go back in time. But in terms of their entrance and going back to U2 and all of that, like, it was incredible. I mean, look, this organization does game presentation well. They haven't had a chance to do it in 9 years for the playoffs, but the pregame videos and some of the hype material and all of that, and to have towel power back. Yeah, I mean, it was, that part of it was fantastic. And then to have the team respond the way it did in the third period obviously capped a remarkable and a memorable night of hockey here at Rogers Arena.
Why did it take them 2 periods to find a real traction scoring wise? Was it just getting their feet wet and maybe absorbing the moment and then getting after it, do you think? Or were they being outplayed to some degree? Were they being figured out a little bit?
I think the early strategy clearly was to try to take the body at every turn. Puck be damned. I mean, they had 20 hits and 4 shots in the first period, and they had an early power play, and you wanted to believe it was going to be a difference maker, and it wasn't. They only had the 1 shot on goal on that power play, and only 2 shots in 2 power plays on the night. So there's an area that continues to be a little bit of a sore spot for the hockey club. But it felt like the puck was secondary at times in that first period, but all with this idea of taking the body wherever possible. A hit in the first period, it can have an impact in game 4, 5, 6 in this war of attrition. And so, no problem with the strategy. But we also saw Toronto on Saturday try to employ that strategy, and the Leafs clearly got distracted, and it didn't work for them. So, 4 shots in the first period. Canucks come out in the second. They have 4 shots in the first 2 minutes. They have a goal. Pia Suter had a really good opportunity as well. And so I think they recognize that the puck is still central to all that goes on in this game of hockey. And at some point, you got to do some good things with it. But, again, when I look at the way the game unfolded, yeah, they gave up the first goal. They fall behind 2-1. But I thought they showed poise, patience. They didn't look like they panicked in any way. And, we've trotted out that Canucks record all season, guys, about when they take a lead in the third period. Like, the third period leads do matter most of the time. And so I think that's a layer to this as well, that the Canucks didn't seem discouraged, stuck with it. And then obviously the 2 goals in 12 seconds turned this game on its ear. And who knows, maybe it turns the series on its ear when all is said and done. But that was important for the Vancouver Canucks. But I just think, like, the underlying numbers showed, like, JT Miller's line absolutely crushed the Predators. They just didn't have anything to show for it. And I think that was going to be one of the storylines if the Canucks came out on the short end of the scoreboard on night number 1 was, all right, territorially they played well, but you got to have something to show for the the fruits of your labor. And ultimately, in that third period, they were able to come through and get the goals they needed to win this thing by a score of 4-2.
The only concern I've heard from anybody is Pettersson, and not that he played poorly, just that didn't really show himself in that. That's the only concern I've really heard. I mean, do they want the special teams to play to perfect? Yeah, they do. But the most tangible concern is Pettersson. What'd you see there?
Yeah, not much. And it's a continuation of what we've seen over the last 15 to 20 games. 1 goal in 14 hockey games now for the Canucks. That's not exactly getting it done. But, this game reminded me a lot of the game in Edmonton there in the final week of the regular season where top-end guys ultimately didn't carry the day for the Vancouver Canucks, and some of their depth came through, and it was Casey DeSmith in goal that night. Obviously, it was Thatcher Demko here, but, Pia Suter scored against the Oilers. He scored in this game. Dakota Joshua sealed that one into an empty net, and he had his 2 goals here. So, I think that's an area that the Canucks feel that they have an edge on the Nashville Predators is depth and lower in the lineup. But in saying that, too, if they're able to dictate the matchups on home ice, you'd think that should free up Elias Pettersson. And it is remarkable, guys, to think that an 89-point producer in the regular season has to surprise us now in some way. But that's kind of where I am with him, that if he has a big night offensively, it is going to come as it's great, but I didn't see it coming because just the breadcrumbs here over the last 6 weeks or so. And last night he got outplayed. He and his line got outplayed. They were on the ice for that first goal. He gets waved out of the circle. A lot of that was on Lafferty as he and Höglander both get out to the point, and they leave Zucker all alone over there on the wall with too much time and space. So, yeah, that line has to be better. You expect more from Elias Pettersson. That there's a better player in there, but, how many times am I going to come on with you guys? And that is going to be the storyline. I hope it changes. I hope it changes for his sake. I hope it changes for the club's sake and the market's sake. But right now, night 1 of the playoffs just looked an awful lot like the last 20 games of the regular season for EP40.
You think Mikheyev's going to stay there, Jeff? I know they moved Mikheyev to the line instead of Lafferty. Do you think Mikheyev's going to stay there for game 2?
That's why I came to practice. I wanted to find out. Rick Tocchet not tipping his hand. But, yeah, look, I think there are some tweaks, and I think that is one of them. In fact, I was a little surprised that he went with Lafferty on that line to start. I would have thought that would have been a plan B, that if Mikheyev wasn't working, you give him an opportunity, and then that you got Lafferty waiting in the wings. Now, Lafferty didn't do an awful lot. He drew an early penalty on Colton Sissons, but there wasn't a whole lot to his game, I didn't think. And so do you come back with him? Do you go with Mikheyev? Are you gaining if you do? The other one is PDG got the nod and a little bit of veteran experience. Not that he had a vast playoff resume, but over Vasily Podkolzin. Giuseppe takes a penalty in the third period. He was out there for the power play goal that Ryan O'Reilly scored, and he had 2 hits on a night when the Canucks had a whole bunch of them, but it wasn't like he was leading the hit parade there. So I think the door is open if Rick Tocchet wanted to just let Vasily Podkolzin experience playoff hockey on the outside and plug him in, but conventional hockey wisdom so often is sticking with a winning lineup as well. I think we'll see Podkolzin in this series, but I wouldn't be shocked if Tocchet comes back with the same lineup that produced a victory, but, will he come back with the same deployment of those players? I don't know. We'll probably have to wait to see if there's a full morning skate on Tuesday ahead of game number 2.
Dakota Joshua, what do you make of playoff D? And I'll ask you our poll question. Pay the man. Is he indispensable going forward, Jeff?
Yeah, it feels like it. Look, hand injuries or any injury, when you miss a quarter of the season, quite often can derail a season. Like guys that are having a good year sometimes just don't get it back. They're out too long. And he has been terrific. And he showed some signs of that in that Easter Sunday game when he scored twice, including the between the legs goal against the Anaheim Ducks. Like that just looked like a guy that was confident, returning to the lineup in his second game, and hasn't let up 7 goals in the 11 games now since he's been back in the lineup from the hand injury. So he's come through with big goals. He's come through with timely goals. He's scored in a bunch of different ways. And that sequence was just exquisite, starting with Lindholm getting into the forecheck. That's Jeremy Lauzon. We've talked about this guy leading the NHL in hits this year, and yet, Lindholm didn't look apprehensive at all. In fact, he gets in, takes the body, takes the puck, gets it to Garland, and Garland threads the needle. And then, I think it would have been pretty easy for Joshua to try to pull that puck to his backhand, and yet, again, speaks to confidence that he saw a sliver of light. And Saros isn't the biggest goaltender, able to get it up over the shoulder on the short side, sort of back against the grain. So he's feeling it. And he looks like a guy that's built for playoff hockey. I know Rick Tocchet talked about he doesn't know how good he can be. Early in the season, Tocchet wasn't saying that about Dakota Joshua, but he's taken the criticism and the tough love to heart and has made himself a heck of a hockey player who's going to make himself a heck of a lot of money now. And so, yes, yeah. I think I pay the guy. You got to have your limits, obviously, in a cap world, but I think that's a bet I would make on a player that, look, Tocchet said at the end of last year, and he'd only worked with Dakota Joshua for a handful of months, and he said, I think he can be a 20-goal scorer. I kind of scoffed at that because he was playing 12 minutes a night. And I think Tocchet liked the idea of this big body that he could mold and shape and get him to win his battles. But I just didn't know if there was enough finish there for him to truly be a 20-goal guy. Well, he missed, a quarter of the season, and he still finishes with 18, and now he's 20 on the year, if you include the first 2 in the playoffs here. So Tocchet saw something there and has continued to, build this guy up, and he's turned into, a really good hockey player who I think has more to give, and that's the exciting part. And it's going to come at a price, no doubt. But I do think that that's a check that I'm willing to write for a player that can help this group for the next bunch of years.
I'm sure Elias Lindholm, if he was told that he would play with Connor Garland and Dakota Joshua when he was traded, he'd be like, "Really?
I know."
And now he's in the best spot possible. Is Elias Lindholm playing with these two guys?
Yeah, and it is funny too. A healthy body can do a lot of good things, and clearly Lindholm was grinding through something and trying to play through something, and then they shut him down, and now that looks like the prudent play based on the first night of the playoffs because he gets in. Look, the goal was a bad goal. Let's be honest. That's a goal that UC Saros has to stop, and Thatcher Demko doesn't give up that goal last night. That's in a tight game. That had to be a little deflating for the Predators, quite frankly. They'd done well to build the lead, and then a goal from distance like that right through Saros. But Lindholm puts the puck on the net. Good things happen there. It was more of the play to set up Joshua on his goal. Late game, he's out there. And talked about it post game as well, guys, that, the first power play of the night, O'Reilly scores, and Teddy Luger's in the penalty box. So there's one of your best penalty killers. Now, it was Di Giuseppe and Suter who were the forwards out on the ice for that goal. But after that, they killed off the remaining 3, and those were pivotal because the Preds had a chance to extend their lead. If they do, maybe a different night. Lindholm's such a big part of the penalty kill, late game protecting leads. He's been doing that. He just didn't have the offense to his game. Last night, he levels up and produces offense as well. Looked like a pretty complete hockey player and a guy that really can help the Canucks pull on the rope in the right direction here.
Well, Jeff, we know you'll be in Nashville later this week. Just take us through the week and going to look like for the Canucks. I anticipate they'll travel Wednesday and not after the game Tuesday. And then when will you be there reporting?
Yeah, both teams are expected to travel Wednesday. It's tough to make travel plans in the playoffs. I mean, you could get 4 overtimes, right? And so obviously that impacts. So I think I know the Predators for sure had always planned to overnight here after game 2 and then fly home. There's the extra day between games. You lose 2 hours going that way, so that'll be an impact on both teams, but certainly for the Canucks having to adjust. So the Canucks will go in Wednesday. They'll have a full practice there on Thursday, and then we'll see about Friday in terms of a game day skate. Now, Sunday is an early start. It's 4:00 local in Nashville, 2 here in Vancouver, so there won't be a morning skate that day. But complicating matters is the fact that it's the Nashville Marathon on Sunday. And apparently, as I'm learning, this is one of the most popular marathons in the United States. It's the rock and roll marathon. People dress up to run. I will not be doing the marathon, but I do wonder if that's some foreshadowing of we're going to get the overtime game on Sunday. Maybe we'll have the Nashville Marathon in the morning and the Nashville Marathon in the afternoon as well. We'll see how that all plays out. But it's going to be a busy city in the downtown core. But Nashville's always hopping at the best of times, so it'll just kind of add a couple of layers, I would imagine, to the experience. I'm going in on Thursday, and certainly we'll be there for games 3 and 4, and we'll do rink wide, and we'll join you guys and anybody that'll have me. I'd be happy to talk hockey from Music City, USA. So excited. We'll see kind of where the mood of the series is, obviously, if Predator fans have to boost their team up or if they're going to see a team that gets the split here in Vancouver and comes back having earned home ice advantage as the series moves forward.
Hey, you're not running, but can we get you to dress up like a rock star and do some social media content around Nashville on Saturday?
An Elvis Pompadour or something?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm only taking carry-on, I think, so I'm not sure that I'll have room to stuff a costume in there. But
you don't think they have costume shops in Nashville?
Matt will give you his credit card.
We'll give you my credit card if you do the social media.
Looking forward to it, Jeff.
Take it under advisement.
And great that here at the Nation Network, Sekeres Price, we're getting you on the road to cover this series. So very pleased about that. Jeff, thank you for this. We'll catch up later in the week.
All right, guys. Thanks.
A few things there that I wanted to pick up on. I think we talked about Thatcher Demko and how the injury might be a blessing in disguise that he missed a month and was rested up for the playoffs. I think the same may prove true for Elias Lindholm. He has been very good upon getting back from injury, as is Joshua. And think of it, Blake, those are 3 exceptional turns for the Canucks, that players of this kind of import have been able to come right off of injuries with sort of no lag whatsoever. And in some cases, Joshua keeping up the great work he was doing before he broke his hand in that fight in Chicago against Mackenzie Entwistle. Demko same goes, but Lindholm's even improved since the rest.
I even thought, Brock Besser was good too. He was given some maintenance days, took the last game off. I think they've done their very best. There's only so much you can do. It's a rough and tumble game. There's going to be a lot of injuries, but they've managed to get started here relatively unscathed. I mean, it's 82 games. You can only control this so much, but they've done a pretty good job of it. And they're putting, I think, as best a foot forward as you possibly can, save for if you're stashed on LTIR for a few months.
Thanks for joining, everybody. If you're new to this program, 11:30 a.m. Pacific weekdays, we go live on many of the social media platforms. And, of course, later in the day, you're going to want to look for the podcast. And, of course, subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll talk to you Tuesday. Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.